I'm Tara Mergener. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, heated hearing. Tempers flare as the Health and Human Services Secretary testifies on the Hill.
Do you accept the fact that 1 million Americans died from COVID? I don't know how many died. You're the Secretary of Health and Human Services. You don't have any idea how many Americans died from COVID?
A Florida first. The state lays out a possible plan for mandated vaccines, but some lawmakers are worried it could be a health disaster. Called by name, the Archdiocese of Denver launches a new campaign to nominate young men to the priesthood, and it has had some surprising results. Plus, a push for peace. Pope Leo tells Israel's president there is only one way out of the war in Gaza. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
And thank you so much for being with us. Our top story tonight. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was in the hot seat today before a Senate hearing as criticism mounts over the CDC director's firing and COVID vaccine access cuts. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales joins us with the latest from this very heated hearing. Eric.
Oh, I tell you what, Tara, good evening to you. Yeah, at times it was loud and contentious. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. appeared before the Senate Finance Committee today as calls for his resignation are mounting. You may recall Kennedy has faced criticism both from within HHS as well as the medical community. Now, prior to the hearing, Democrats held a rally calling for him to step down.
So obviously unqualified and unfit for this office, is he? He never should have been confirmed by the United States Senate, and he needs to resign.
It is not a matter of politics anymore. It's a matter of public health. And I'm calling on RFK Jr. to resign immediately.
During the hearing, the arrows kept flying. Democrats focused on the firing of CDC Director Susan Minares less than a month after she was hired. Senator Ron Wyden asked if she was let go because she wanted vaccines to be scientifically proven and not rubber stamped.
So you have an opportunity to call her a liar if you say that you didn't do it, but I'd like to see you respond to this.
No, I did not say that to her. And I never had a private meeting with her. So there are witnesses to every meeting that we have, and all of those witnesses will say, I never said that.
So she's lying today to the American people in the Wall Street Journal?
Yes, sir.
Lawmakers then focused on COVID.
You don't have any idea how many Americans died from COVID? I don't think anybody knows that because there was so much data chaos coming out of the CDC, and there was so many perverse incentives. And these are modeled. You don't know the answer of how many Americans died from COVID. This is the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Most Americans will be able to get it from their pharmacy free.
The question is, everyone who wants it, that was your promise.
No, I didn't. I never promised that I was going to recommend products for which there is no indication.
When you said,
and I know you've taken $855,000 from pharmaceutical companies.
While some Republicans praised Kennedy on his efforts, others, including Senator Bill Cassidy, who supported his nomination, asked Kennedy if he thought it was a conflict of interest to appoint panelists who were paid expert witnesses in litigation against vaccine manufacturers.
If we put people who are paid witnesses for people suing vaccines, that actually seems like a conflict of interest. Real quickly, do you agree with that?
No, I don't. It may be a bias, and that bias, if disclosed, is okay.
And during these hearings, senators are able to focus on whatever issues that they want. And Catholic Senator Steve Daines, well, he focused on the deregulation of the abortion drug called mifepristone. The secretary said that the FDA is reviewing the drug on its safety as of right now. And Kennedy also revealed that the Biden administration, quote, twisted FDA data to bury safety signals surrounding mifepristone. Bottom line, it was a very contentious hearing and comes after more than 1,000 current and former employees across the Department of Health and Human Services signed a letter this week calling for Kennedy's resignation. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
Contentious indeed. Thank you, Eric. Well, vaccines are also a hot topic in Florida right now following an announcement from the state's Surgeon General.
The Florida Department of Health, in partnership with the governor, is going to be working to end all vaccine mandates in Florida law. All of them. All of them.
This would include the vaccine mandates for kids attending Florida public schools. All 50 states have at least some vaccination requirements for children entering school, though all allow for medical exemptions and most allow exemptions for religious or personal reasons. The move is a significant departure from decades of public policy. So for more on vaccines, we'd like to bring in Dr. John Berhaney. He is the Executive Vice President and Director of Institutional Relations at the National Catholic Bioethics Center. Dr. Berhaney, first, why do we have vaccine in the mandates? And to be clear, we're also talking about childhood vaccines like polio, measles, et cetera, correct?
That's true. And it's interesting. The United States has had vaccine mandates, various states, of course, going back to the later 1800s. And they've expanded all through the course of the 20th century. Based on the belief that they protect the public health. I think a lot of people have sincerely believed that, and that's why we have these mandates.
What is the necessary baseline, in your opinion, of vaccines to avoid some kind of pandemic again?
Well, with all of these things, we're talking about multiple diseases, multiple vaccine products. Yeah, it's huge. You know, it's very hard to respond to that specifically. If I could just make one point, though, I see there's a lot of outrage about Florida, and it sounds almost unprecedented. However, I know the country of Denmark has no vaccine mandates to attend public schools in Denmark. Now, they also have very high vaccine acceptance and utilization rates. But, you know, and I think other European countries have fewer school mandates than the United States. So, you know, in principle, this is a matter of prudence. And already states mandate different vaccines at different times. There's actually a fair amount of diversity out there. There's not a one-size-fits-all, even across all 50 states.
Of course, certainly this is a very interesting development, to say the least. But what are some of the newest vaccines that are mandated? Can you tell me about those?
Well, of course, the newest one that was mandated in different ways by federal agencies was the COVID-19 vaccine that was added to the childhood schedule in some states. And the American Academy of Pediatrics is still recommending it for children as young as 6 months old. That's probably the most recent vaccine. I think a vaccine for RSV, that the respiratory syntactical virus, is a more recent one, let's say, than polio or smallpox or something like that.
We also understand that potentially the COVID vaccine could be restricted now to older Americans or those with a special condition. How do you suppose that might affect illnesses this fall?
Well, and I'm a doctor of philosophy and not a medical doctor, so I couldn't be specific. However, I would just note again, this is very interesting. Other European nations they have been restricting the COVID vaccines in a very similar way to the oldest among their populations. I think it's Sweden and the United Kingdom, to people 75 years old and above, and to people with specific health risks. So some of the restrictions that I've heard that Secretary Kennedy has been supporting are actually underway in other European countries right now. The mRNA vaccines, some people think they were quite effective, but many people believe they were not that effective, certainly in stopping the transmission of coronavirus, or SARS-CoV-2. So it's really hard to say, but I think some of the changes that we're hearing out of Senator Kennedy and HHS are actually public policy in other countries. They're not that different.
Yeah, certainly people will be taking a look at those, and definitely a very interesting development that all eyes will be on in Florida. Dr. John Brehany, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, President Donald Trump speaks virtually with European leaders who gathered in Paris today to discuss security guarantees for Ukraine. The meeting focused on ensuring long-term military support and continued American backing once the conflict ends. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen.
Tara, as leaders try to prepare for a post-war Ukraine, they first, of course, have to get the fighting to stop. And trying to make that happen, U.S. Peace Envoy Steve Witkoff.
In Ukraine, burning buildings and vehicles following an overnight attack from Russia. And in Paris, U.S. Envoy for Peace Talks Steve Witkoff and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky embrace each other and shake hands. For months, the coalition of the willing has been meeting to discuss aid for Ukraine, including sketching out plans for military support in the event of a ceasefire to deter future Russian aggression. Speaking at a joint news conference with his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said a meeting with Russian leader Vladimir Putin was a matter of necessity, but accused Moscow of doing everything to defer it. And Macron said European countries would seek additional sanctions on Russia in conjunction with the United States if Moscow continues to refuse peace talks over Ukraine. President Donald Trump has been urging peace for months while decrying the killing.
It's going to get done one way or the other, but they have to stop killing all of these souls. They're souls, and we have to stop killing.
France and the United Kingdom have insisted that any European reassurance force in Ukraine needs the backing of the United States. But it's still not clear if the Russian president will agree to a ceasefire.
I have no message to President Putin. He knows where I stand, and he'll make a decision one way or the other. Whatever his decision is, we'll either be happy about it or unhappy. And if we're unhappy about it, you'll see things happen.
The head of NATO also warns about the ongoing threat from Russia.
Let's not be naive about Russia. We know what Putin tries to do, and the evidence is there in Ukraine as we speak. And it is there that threat for the long term, I'm afraid.
Complicating efforts for peace, North Korea, which has sent combat troops and ammunition to back Russia's invasion of Ukraine in return for economic and military assistance.
French President Macron also says 26 of Ukraine's allies have pledged to deploy troops as a reassurance force in the war-torn country once fighting ends. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
All right, Owen, thank you. The nation's capital is suing the Trump administration over the deployment of National Guard troops within the city. It says the violation amounts to an unconstitutional and, quote, involuntary military occupation. Washington, D.C. is asking a federal court to intervene, even as Trump plans to send troops to other cities like Chicago, Baltimore, and New Orleans in an effort to drive down crime. The White House says deploying the Guard to protect federal assets and assist law enforcement is within Trump's authority as president. Well, this morning, Pope Leo received Isaac Herzog, the president of the State of Israel, at the Vatican in a private audience. We're told they discussed the political and social situation in the Middle East. According to a statement issued by the Holy See press office, the Holy Father and the Israeli president discussed the need for an urgent ceasefire and unimpeded aid access for Gaza, as well as the liberation of all remaining hostages. It also said that the Holy See reiterated its view that a two-state solution is the only way out of the current war. Portugal's prime minister called it, quote, one of the biggest tragedies of our recent past after a streetcar derails in Lisbon. Today, investigators sifted through the wreckage, trying to determine the cause of that accident, which left 16 people dead and 21 injured. The electric streetcar is a popular tourist attraction and came off its rails during the evening rush hour. In a message to the Patriarch of Lisbon, Pope Leo conveyed his heartfelt condolences, as well as his spiritual closeness to those affected by that crash. An Alabama man is now facing charges after allegedly bringing a cache of weapons to a monastery in California. The Orange County Sheriff's Department recently released this photo showing body armor, brass knuckles, and knives. They say 38-year-old Joshua Richardson made criminal threats against St. Michael's Abbey, that's about 40 miles southeast of Los Angeles, last month. Fortunately, nobody was hurt. We have a lot more still to come on EWTN News Nightly. Learn about a campaign that sparked a real openness to vocations in the hearts of young men in Denver. And new reports reveal troubling signals in the labor market. Details after the break. Numbers released today show a decrease in hiring among private sector businesses in August. A report from payroll company ADP shows businesses added about half the number of jobs as they did in July. The Labor Department reports first-time claims for unemployment benefits also rose to an 11-week high. Last month was the worst August for layoff announcements since the Great Recession of the late 2000s. First Lady Melania Trump hosted an event today in the East Room focused on artificial intelligence. She said, "We are living in a moment of wonder.
Our future is no longer science fiction."
The First Lady says AI will serve as the underpinning of every business sector in our nation, including education, life sciences, finance, and design. She joined a meeting of the White House Task Force on Artificial Intelligence Education. And now to the Rocky Mountains and a little bit of good news. The Archdiocese of Denver recently asked parishioners to share the names of young men they think would make good priests. And the result was quite the surprise. The Archdiocese says it received more than 900 names. Wow. Church officials say it yielded more than just possible candidates. They say it also sparked a real openness to vocations in the hearts of young men in the city. Archbishop Samuel Aquila says he is grateful to the community for recognizing the pastoral potential in so many young men. All right, for more, we turn to Father Jason Wallace, Vocations Director for the Archdiocese of Denver. Father Jason, thanks for being here. How did the Called by Name program begin, and what was your reaction upon hearing the plan? It sounds so simple.
You know, it seems very simple, but a couple years ago, we decided to work with Beyond Vocations, and they help vocation directors throughout the country, get their offices organized and support them. So they came to me with this plan. And we've heard about it before. Some of our parishes do it, but it was a diocesan-wide campaign. So he said, Father, we want to nail down a weekend. We want to get everybody on board, every priest telling their vocation stories on the same weekend, and then inviting parishioners throughout the diocese to just nominate young men who they feel, could have the qualities to be a priest or may be discerning themselves already. And so we had a campaign in May, and lo and behold, I have a few stats here I can read. We had 955 total submissions with 801 individual names.
What happened next after someone's name was given to you as a possible seminarian? There's just so many that reached out.
After that, we decided to invite them to the seminary. So the first day that seminary began, we held a big event. We had about 100 men reply, and they showed up that day, and they were with all of our seminarians for Mass and Holy Hour. And even in that day, some men came and they said, Father, this is amazing. We were not expecting this. We thought a seminary would be much different than we had envisioned. And we see these men are normal. They're energetic. They're enthusiastic about the mission. And can we keep talking? And so it was a great event. And now we're going to follow up with more events throughout the year. We invite the men to ordinations. We invite them to retreats. We're going to invite them to mission work. We invite them to come visit the seminary. I say my biggest pull in my archdiocese are my seminarians. I bring young men to the seminary and they get that kind of idea they have in their head, out of their head about what seminary is, and they come and see the real thing. And then once they see it, it's either, love it or leave it. And they think, wow, this could be for me, or this may not be my calling.
Yeah, well, the response is definitely so encouraging and inspiring. So have any other dioceses reached out to you for more info on Called by Name? And do you know any place else that might be trying this now?
I heard, because Beyond Vocation works with a number of, archdioceses and dioceses throughout the country. I believe the Archdiocese of New York City used it. There's a diocese, I think Boise, Idaho used it. And I'm afraid that more dioceses, after they hear this, they're going to want to do it. And then I'm going to be like, why did I do this? Because then all of a sudden the resources are going to be, split between all of us. But it's great actually for the church. So I hope that it continues to succeed. I couldn't be happier with what Beyond Vocations has done, because they just got our permission to do it, and they ran everything, from there. And they do all the organizational part, all the mailings, all the emails, everything for me. So they take the ball and they run with it, and then I just have to reap the fruit of all the work that they're doing, which is a blessing, because it's too much for one man to do.
For sure. Amazing. Well, very quickly, Father, we're running out of time. What advice do you have for someone considering a vocation to the priesthood or religious life?
The first thing is live in the grace of God. So eradicate sin from your life, especially mortal sin. Have a prayer life. Make sure you're praying every day. Have a holy hour, or at least pray the rosary every day. Have a personal relationship with God. Start to be in touch with them. I say we become like the people we hang around. So if we're hanging around people who do bad things, we start to imitate them. If we're hanging around Jesus and the saints, we start to imitate them.
All right, fantastic advice. Father Jason Wallace, thank you and best of luck.
Thank you. God bless you.
God bless you. All right, up next on EWTN News Nightly, hallowed ground. See the new agricultural additions to the Pope's summer home and their special connections to Pope Francis. Leo XIV will be inaugurating a new ecological chapter to his pontificate with the opening of Borgo Laudato Si, making the once exclusive papal villa gardens and farms more inclusive to all. EWTN News Vatican correspondent Valentina Di Donato has more.
Many times we have reduced faith just to simply the spaces, the sacred spaces that we consider sacred, right? And that is the church walls that have been anointed by the chrism. But we must remember that our God created everything, created the world. And that a place like this reminds us, and the care of the church, when it comes to environmental sustainability and human dignity, that it's all interconnected.
Located near Lake Albano, Borgo Laudato Si is part of Castel Gandolfo, the papal summer residence. It has just been reorganized, with its mission renewed and inspired by Pope Francis's encyclical on the care for creation, Laudato Si. A new section has been added to the 55 hectares of land dedicated to the Vatican's first ever vocational school, which will offer on-site training in sustainable gardening, organic winemaking, and olive harvesting. There are plans for a restaurant and hotel on the grounds as well.
The papal agricultural lands that have been that source of food for the popes for many years. Now, the very same products are going to be open to everybody, but it's a limited production. So the choice that we have made is to make those products available to people: the wine, the cheese, the olive oil, the honey that is produced here, all limited production, and then make it available to people who want to support, somebody else. So the migrants and refugees, the young women who have chosen not to abort their baby and have them.
Father Manuel Dorantes explained at a conference organized by the Vatican for journalists ahead of Pope Leo's arrival that Borgo Laudato Si will be a place where society's most marginalized will have a chance to learn skills to produce goods in a fully ethical way. These products, originally made for the Pope, will now also be available for purchase, serving as a practical example of how to foster a culture of care for creation.
Young people, the people that I ministered to in Chicago, are hungry for examples of how this can happen. And at times, sadly, we priests, we religious leaders are not as practical in helping people to understand that your everyday decisions have an impact on your salvation. Our God is a God of love who gave us the world to care for it, not to exploit it. And this shows practically what it looks like.
The mission of Borgo Laudato Si is to serve as an example that it is possible to create a better and more ethical way to include all members of society, to make products that honor the natural resources our planet gives us, and that it is possible to create better business models. In Rome, Valentina Di Donato for EWTN News Nightly.
And we thank you so much for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tara Merchiner. Good night and God bless.